Two dead in a seaside tragedy at Sheko. Cath Pacific cuts the number of flying hours required for captain training and exams. And commenting on Lai Ching-te's election victory in Taiwan, Beijing says the DPP does not represent the island's mainstream public opinion. Hello, welcome to TVB News. A seaside tragedy at Sheko today. A woman fell into the sea and two men jumped into the water trying to save her. One of the men and the woman died, while the other man swam back to shore. Sources say the three are siblings. Two of them are visitors from the mainland. Memo Sangai reports.
This is Zaito Zhao at Sheko, where the tragedy happened. Some people could be seen taking pictures at the site this afternoon. While there are danger signs in the area, some visitors think more safety facilities can be set up there. Metal fences can be put up to prevent dangerous situations, she said. Police said they received a report at around 1 p.m. saying two male and one female hikers fell into the sea. Sources say the woman was trying to take pictures near the seashore before being swept away by a big wave. Her two brothers then jumped into the sea in an attempt to rescue her. One of the brothers later swam back to shore, while the other two became unconscious after being pulled out of water. The conscious brother suffered minor injuries. The two unconscious siblings, meanwhile, required the application of chest compression machines while being sent to Eastern Hospital. They were later pronounced dead. Daitao is a popular tourist attraction on Xiaohongshu, a mainstream social media platform on the mainland. Many photos show people standing on rocks close to the shoreline. A spokesman for the Hong Kong and Kowloon Lifeguards Union, Nick Wu, said people must not directly touch a drowning person in urgent situations. He said individuals should save the person by handing objects to them, such as clothing. Memos 9, TVB News.
Cath Pacific Airways has slashed the number of flying hours required for captain training and examinations. That's in a bid to facilitate more captains to be trained in time, Cath says. The move comes after the city's flagship carrier came under fire and drew criticisms from the government, including Chief Executive John Lee, over a series of flight cancellations and disruptions. A total of 4,000 flying hours. That's Cath Pacific Airways' original requirement for pilots to apply for captain training and selection. Now the threshold is slashed to 3,000 hours as part of Cath's efforts to address the manpower crunch amid a slew of flight cancellations in recent weeks. The 3,000 hours would include pilots who served as first officers who've undertaken at least 500 Cath takeoffs and landings. The relaxation of eligibility has been approved by the Civil Aviation Department, the airline says. Cath explains the adjustment was made because it's harder for first officers who fly short-haul flights to accumulate enough flying hours. Compared with long-haul flight pilots, they usually need more than 2 years to reach the original threshold. The carrier said the updated pathway can help ensure pilots with more frequent short-haul flight duties to receive captain training within a reasonable period of time. Cath stresses curriculum and standards remain the most rigorous in the industry. It's understood the updated threshold only applies to Cath or Cath Dragon pilots. The Hong Kong Aircrew Officers Association said it's not surprised about this adjustment, as many experienced pilots have left the airline during Cath's restructuring in 2020.
It's inevitable that experience levels have dropped because most of the pilots that left were the experienced pilots, but that there may be extra training required. Training courses might have to be a little bit longer. There may be a higher failure rate. So all of this will just add to the training mountain that Cath Pacific has ahead of it and will slow down the recovery.
Will that compromise Cath's quality?
I am confident that standards will be maintained. It's just that Cath Pacific will probably have to do even more training.
But Paul Weatherill stressed only through improving the remuneration can Cath truly resolve a severe manpower crunch. Lai Ching-te from Taiwan's ruling Democratic Progressive Party was elected the island's next top leader on Saturday. He will take office on May 20th, but the ruling DPP lost control of parliament. Beijing said the DPP does not represent the mainstream public opinion on the island, adding that there is only one China in the world. Beijing's Taiwan Affairs Office of the State Council said Taiwan remains part of China. It said the election cannot change the direction of cross-strait relations or change the common desire of compatriots on both sides to get closer. Apart from the insistence on the 1992 consensus, which outlines the One China principle and opposes separatist activities aimed at Taiwan independence, the office said it strives to deepen cross-strait integration and development in a peaceful manner. Beijing's Ministry of Foreign Affairs also said the international community will not change the consensus towards the One China policy. It added this policy is the linchpin to maintaining cross-strait peace and stability. Internationally, mixed views towards the election in Taiwan. This from U.S. President Joe Biden. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken congratulated Lai Ching-te on his victory, adding that the U.S. is committed to the One China policy and will deepen non-official relations with Lai and various political parties in Taiwan. U.S. House Speaker Mike Johnson said he will be asking the chairs of the relevant House committees to lead a delegation to Taipei following Lai's inauguration in May. Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova meanwhile said Moscow continues to view Taiwan as an integral part of China and that cross-strait issues belong to China's internal affairs. The European Union congratulated all voters who participated in Taiwan's election without mentioning the election winner, Lai Ching-te. The body stresses it will continue to monitor the increasingly fraught situation in the Taiwan Strait and is against any unilateral attempt to change its status quo. British Foreign Secretary David Cameron congratulated Lai, saying he hopes Taipei and Beijing will renew efforts to resolve their differences peacefully. Striking a similar note was Japan's Foreign Minister Yoko Kamikawa, who reiterated that Taiwan is an extremely crucial partner sharing fundamental values with close economic relations with Japan. Singapore said it will continue developing cordial relations with Taiwan on the basis of the One China policy. The American Institute in Taiwan, which handles relations in the absence of official diplomatic ties, revealed 2 former senior U.S. officials will arrive in Taiwan today for post-election talks. They are former National Security Advisor Stephen Hadley and former Deputy Secretary of State James Steinberg. Their visit is set to underscore the U.S. government's long-standing interest in peace across the Taiwan Strait. A senior administration official said last week that President Joe Biden planned to send an unofficial delegation to Taiwan. In a personal capacity, the pair will meet with a range of political figures in Taiwan on Monday. Reportedly, such a post-election visit by former senior U.S. officials was routine and not out of the ordinary. Indonesia's Mount Marapi erupted again today, spewing smoke and ash high into the air, but there were no reports of casualties. An ash column rising to 1,300 meters above the volcano's peak was recorded during the eruption. At least 100 residents have been evacuated since Friday after authorities raised the alert level of the volcano from level 2 to level 3, the second highest level on Wednesday. Sprays of ash from the eruption blanketed roads and vehicles in nearby villages in West Sumatra province. Marapi is known for sudden eruptions that are difficult to predict because they are not caused by a deep movement of magma, which sets off tremors that register on seismic monitors. Its eruption early last month shot thick columns of ash as high as 3 kilometers. That surprise weekend eruption killed 24 climbers and injured several others. Marapi has been active since an eruption in January last year. It is among more than 120 active volcanoes in Indonesia, which is prone to seismic upheaval due to its location on the Pacific Ring of Fire, an arc of volcanoes and fault lines encircling the Pacific Basin. A blast of frigid air from the Arctic has hit western Canada, bringing temperature to record lows in a number of regions. A winter storm brought heavy snow and strong winds across the Toronto area and wide swaths of the province Friday evening. Toronto Pearson International Airport had to cancel almost 200 flights. More snow has been forecast for the coming week. A meteorological expert says the frigid air is expected to go southwards and affect the western part of the United States.
Cold in the west is principally from what is coming from, maybe began in Siberia, came over into the Northwest Territories, and is now flooding down to Canada and going down really even to Texas. Has cooled off the many parts of Western United States. There's no mountains there to block that north to south flow.
And still ahead. In Washington, D.C. and London, massive protests against the war in Gaza. U.S. Special Envoy on Climate Change, John Kerry, is stepping down from the post. And the observatory forecasts the arrival of a cold front next Sunday. And there were massive demonstrations around the world in opposition to Israel's war on Hamas in Gaza. U.S. President Joe Biden has come under pressure to do more to help civilians catch up in the conflict. And it was in Washington, D.C., where one of the largest rallies took place. David Garrett reports.
Free Palestine!
The organisers of this pro-Palestinian march wanted lots of women and children to attend to highlight the numbers of those killed. The health ministry in Gaza says nearly 24,000 Palestinians have so far died in the Israel-Hamas war, with nearly two-thirds of them being women and children.
That's the most shocking part about it. These babies, all these babies, dying and being killed, murdered, senselessly.
There have been regular demonstrations across the US during the three-month war. This was said to be one of the largest. These people hope the White House will do more to stop the suffering of civilians.
You cannot kill a lot of people, like 20,000, 30,000 people, just because you want to find a few bad guys. They have killed like 12,000 plus children. I mean, how can the world tolerate this?
The day of action involved thousands and was peaceful. The crowd concluded their march outside the White House. In a week when Britain has shown solidarity with the US in striking Houthi targets in Yemen, those against the war in Gaza protested in London too. Thousands were seen around Big Ben and the Houses of Parliament. Hundreds filed past St Paul's Cathedral, calling for a stop to the massacre.
By marching, we'll have our leaders taking the initiative and preventing the genocide that is taking place today, taking place every second.
There were 1,700 officers deployed by the police. The UK government said it was for safety. Marches like these have been accused of fueling hate against Jews. A pro-Israeli march is due to take place in the British capital later this weekend. Demonstrators posed as corpses on the piazzas in Rome. Numbers in Italy's capital were smaller, in the hundreds, but the message was the same. Some waved South African flags after the country accused Israel of genocide at the International Court of Justice in The Hague this week. 5,000 symbolic tombstones were laid out in Naples. Activists have often staged protests in the city. Organisers said they had to do so again as Sunday marks 100 days since the war began. David Garrett, TVB News.
The U.S. Special Envoy on Climate Change, John Kerry, is stepping down but will assist President Joe Biden in his bid for re-election. The 80-year-old will leave his position in the coming weeks. He has been a passionate green campaigner for decades and aims to continue the cause from the outside. Kerry was a major influence as countries brokered a move away from fossil fuels at a conference in Dubai last year. The former Massachusetts senator was one of the leading drafters of the 2015 Paris Climate Accord as Secretary of State under Barack Obama. Kerry has enjoyed a good relationship with China and met with Vice President Han Zheng on climate matters last summer. Back locally, the observatory has forecast a temperature drop to 15 degrees Celsius next Sunday and a few degrees lower in the following few days. We are in the winter season, but it has been warm over the past few days. In Shengshui in the North District, a high temperature of 27.6 degrees was recorded this afternoon. However, the observatory says a cold front is expected to move across southern China next weekend. The mercury is forecast to fall notably next Sunday and in the following few days. The cold weather will coincide with the Hong Kong Marathon, which is set to take place on the 21st of the month. A villa in Chunwan was burgled around midnight last night. Cash and jewelry worth more than $150,000 were stolen. Located on Castle Peak Road, the house belongs to 56-year-old TV actress Elvina Kong. It's understood a smart security system has been installed around the villa, and an anti-burglary alarm was triggered when her house was broken into. Kong was not at home at the time. The security company linked to the smart system reported the case to Kong and then to the police. No arrests have been made so far. The MTR Corporation commissioned specialists to restore a giant Chinese calligraphy mural by the late Hong Kong street artist Deng Choi, also known as the King of Kowloon. Measuring 1.5 by 5 meters and featuring Deng's iconic style of bold black Chinese brushwork, the calligraphy graffiti is displayed under the railway bridge on Boundary Street near Mong Kok East Station. The rail operator said the ink inscription was discovered in 2022 after some paint peeled off. The fullness of Zhang's work eventually came to light with careful restoration efforts. The MTR Corporation says a protective layer of coating was added to safeguard the display from further deterioration. Between 1950s and the 2000s, Zhang used the city's public surfaces as his canvas. In his inscriptions, Zhang claimed royal ancestry. He passed away in 2007. The organizer of the Temple Street Night Market are considering expanding the size of the venue. This was the scene at Temple Street Night Market on Saturday. Food stalls and shops were packed with customers. Organizers say they are considering increasing the size of the night market to include another street. However, some food vendors say they have received fewer customers than a month ago when the market was first launched. He hoped the upcoming Lunar New Year holiday can bring back more customers. And that's the news. Thank you for watching.